Welcome to part 3 of Overcoming Objections. To recap really quick, in this series I'm talking about objections we get in our sales conversations and how to handle them. If you've missed parts 1 and 2, then take a moment and catch the goodness that I shared with you over the last 2 weeks. I started with how we have our own objections that we wrestle with and how to look at what comes up for us in a way of resistance. And when we do, this helps us be more proficient in handling our potential clients' objections too. So it's really a win-win situation and can be so helpful for us and them. And in part 2, I talked about the biggest objections we get around money. The most objections we get come in 3 categories really: money, time, and checking in with someone else. And the part 2 of the series, I talked about the biggest objections that it's all around money. So let's jump back in and talk about with the checking in with someone else objections that we often get. Okay, so here's a second objection that comes up. I need to talk to my partner, spouse, family member, etc. This one is one of my favorites because another way that this presents itself is with anyone who sells to corporate contracts too, right? A lot of times when we're dealing with multiple buyers, this shows up even if it's not a partner type moment, okay? If it's not about partnership or something. For instance, I'm currently in talks with a company where I'm talking with the director of marketing, and the CEO, though, is the person who's actually going to be making the purchase. And I'm not even talking with her. So I need to empower the person that I'm speaking to have a frank and honest conversation with the person who's actually holding the purse strings. So back to the whole how do I handle this objection myself question, right? Let's talk about how to help other people through it. So first and foremost, I've decided not to use those objections, excuses myself, right? Meaning my husband and I have a great deal of trust in one another, and we run different businesses, and I do often involve him in the conversations about things that happen, and I don't let him make a choice for me. Because the truth of the matter is, he's not in my business. So it's not really his choice to make on that. And I know a lot of times I work with clients who possibly aren't making any money in their business, and their partner does need to make the payment. Here's the key though. You want to be in command of the sales conversation. So what I want for you to do is remember that while you're there, if somebody is not 100% yes, and they go and talk to somebody else, then often the protector shows up. Here's what I mean. It's like the inside of our subconscious mind that says, this is change. Don't do it. This is what I mean about your protector showing up. And I always like to tell the story of one of my beloved clients, her first time purchasing coaching with me, and she bought a $5,000 offer I had, and she went to her husband and she was like, I'm struggling. I need this, and it's going to solve everything. I'm going to do it. And he said, yeah, you need to do it. And she hadn't made any money in her business yet. But he said, take something out of our 401k, just go ahead with it. Then later, she was offered an invitation for another type of package to grow her business, and I think that package was like a $30,000 investment. This time she went to him and said, I think this is what I need because I need to figure this out. And he said, nope, that's a bad choice. I don't think you should do that. And she came to our coaching time and she's like, she was coming away thinking that he said that because it was $30K. And the other time that she asked him, it was $5. And come to find out, it wasn't even about the money. It was about her certainty. When she first came to him with the first time, she was 100% yes. Yet this was for her, and it lined up for him to say, yes, go ahead and do it. The second time, she was not 100% certain. She was still trying to figure out if it was the way she should go. That's why he said no. He was the protector of her resistance. So here's how I coach my clients through the I need to talk with somebody else objection. I say, before you go and invite another person into your decision process, you need to be 100% yes or 100% no. And then I give them an exercise to help them get to 100% yes. And after doing this exercise, when they are at 100% yes, then you go to the energy of discussion versus permission with the partner, the person they're going to talk to. Now, here's another thing. When I'm selling to somebody and I know they need a different person's approval, I find out who the third person is and I coach them through how to describe the services I'm offering to the other person. So some people need to buy because they feel confident, they feel good about it, and they don't need specifics. And also I've had clients for large events where each person got a copy of the proposal. And I've had coaching clients where I shared like a PowerPoint for them to share with their partner so that they could see the practical facts on paper. And as soon as I started doing that, they started to feel empowered when they were saying, here's what I'm going to do, and here's how it's going to work. You simply need to know what that person is going to say. And then here's the key. This is the one that makes it work, because you need to know if this is resistance or if this is an objection. Are they going to buy or not going to buy when somebody needs to speak to another person, business partner, spouse, or anybody? So I say, great. Let's set 2 appointments. Appointment number 1 is when you're going to talk with this person. Then I guide them through having that schedule-based kind of conversation, right? For instance, if this is a romantic partner, well, don't do it at a time with the kids and everyone is all over the place and then you're exhausted. You have your natural set time to talk. And if you're going to talk with the CEO of a business, you know that they need to get it on their appointment calendar, right? And Thursdays perhaps are their worst days. So don't talk to them on a Thursday. I walk them through making the time appointment and how to have that conversation. And then I say, the second appointment we're going to make is when you and I can reconnect. This way, instead of having a fly away, oops, I talked to so-and-so and it didn't get what I wanted, lost opportunity, I get to have a second call scheduled so we can get to that yes conversation. Now, let's talk about the time and timing objections, because these 2 objections go together. What I like to do is talk about internal urgency. When you can activate the internal urgency within someone, then that is how the timing becomes irrelevant. You will legit not be the person again to buy what you're buying right now, because I want you to go back to your own time resistance. When was there a time when you said, this isn't the right time for this, or this isn't the right timing, I've got too much on my plate right now? And I always give this example, going back to a few years ago when I had this lovely conversation with a woman who was going to do some PR for me. And it was great. I was all in. And she didn't take my credit card over the phone when we were on the call. And it was right around the holidays. And so I said, just follow up with me. And then we got off the phone. And you know what happened? Between that 2 weeks before she reached out again, I was invited to do something else in my business, and I shifted by the time she followed up. I wasn't a yes to buy from her anymore, and I literally became a different person in that space. So what do you do when you line up with someone and they have a timing issue? Here's all you need to do. It's the same thing as I said before. Grab a story from a time where you knew, I gotta jump into this now timing, where you were overwhelmed. There was too much on your plate. It didn't make any sense, but you said yes to something, made it a priority, and it helped you step into what you needed. And then one of the times it worked for your clients, right? So I remember one of my past clients, she never showed up live for anything in a 6-month program we were doing. She was commuting and doing all kinds of stuff. And all she would do was listen to the recordings of everything. And then she would send me an email question and I would answer it live. And she listened to the recordings later. She had some of the best results I've ever seen on any of my clients. Why did it work? Because it was a priority for her. Now, I've used this word priority quite a few times over the last few episodes and today, and I want to introduce this into your own vocabulary, right? And also into your clients. There's a way to talk about priority, and it kind of hurts my heart a little, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway because it's a really powerful example. So if any of you are parents and you have a child who shows up and needs something from you and you're like, I'm busy right now. I'm busy right now. I want you to practice saying something. Honey, you're not my priority. I mean, that just guts me. Think about it. Maybe that's happened to you before when you needed something. And then somebody said, oh, not now. I can't focus on you right now. What they're saying is, it's not my priority. Why do I want you to do this? And please actually don't do this to your children. I want you to retrain yourself to say what is actually true. It's okay if something is not your priority. But when we use phrases like, I don't have the money, it's not the right time, I need to talk with somebody else, anytime we use those objections or resistance, what we're really doing is we're really actually blocking the things that we want. And here's the best thing. When you step into saying a true no, all of a sudden you line up for everything you want. So if there is something that you are trying to make a decision on, if you've been invited into something and you're like, should I or shouldn't I? When you stay in the land of indecision, basically you have no reason to get the things you want. A great example is, you know how I said in an earlier episode where I make the decision and then the money shows up? Have you ever had a moment where you're given an invitation to something and you're like, I gotta wait for the money. I can't do this. I gotta wait for the money. And then the money doesn't even show up. Why? What's the difference? The difference is the decision point. When you make a decision, the resources have to show up. And here's the best part. I said decision, not a yes. You can say no and still get the results, and here's how. If something is truly not a fit for you and you say no, all of a sudden other opportunities are going to pop up that will be the right one. So I want you to pay close attention to helping people and remembering what is your role in a sales conversation. Your role is to guide someone to a decision. My sales process is called Getting to Yes in 5 Steps. And that's what my goal is. And I want each of you, when you're doing your sales conversations, to be able to get somebody to a yes. And more importantly, though, you get them to a decision. No is powerful because no allows the next thing to show up. And yes, it's fantastic to get a yes. And if it's a real yes, we need to go all the way through the resistance, all the way through the objections, and have somebody in a place of a solid knowing yes. So my invitation to you is, instead of dragging someone over the threshold, instead of forcing, instead of being worried, what if going forward in every single sales conversation you get to step in the position of saying, how can I help you get there? Now we're going to cut this episode today. I have just a couple more tools to share with you, and I'm going to do that next week in part 4 of this series. It will be the last one, and I hope you've enjoyed this so far. Let me know if you found some nuggets in these tools I've been sharing with you. I'd love to hear your stories of how you've gotten through resistance with your clients. Thanks for joining me today, and bye for now.